Let me ask you something. How many times have you sat down to write, staring at that blank page, feeling like your ideas are either stuck or just not coming together? It's frustrating, right? You know you have the potential to create something amazing, but it feels like something is holding you back. Here's the thing. What if I told you the answer to overcoming that block wasn't some abstract theoretical concept, but a mindset that's practical, no nonsense, and rooted in real-world action? Yeah, I'm talking about pragmatism for creative writing. Now, I know what you might be thinking. Isn't pragmatism just a philosophy for problem solving? Exactly. And that's why it's exactly what your creative process needs. We're so caught up in trying to make things perfect before we even start, and that's where the magic dies. But pragmatism? It strips all that down to the essentials. It's about making progress in the real world, even when the writing process feels messy or uncertain. In this video, I'm going to show you how adopting a pragmatic approach can actually free you up to create more, write faster, and build better stories without waiting for inspiration to strike. Stick around, because I'm not just going to share theory. I'm going to give you practical tools you can use right now to start writing smarter and better. You'll be ready to break through that creative block and embrace a process that works. Don't go anywhere. This is the start of something that'll change the way you write forever. Number 1. The brutal honesty approach. Let's get real for a second. What if I told you that the secret to unlocking your best creative writing is to be brutally honest? Yes, you heard me right. Brutally honest. You might be thinking, wait, doesn't that sound a little too raw? Too unpolished? Trust me on this one. Sometimes that's exactly what your writing needs. We've all been there, right? Staring at the blank page, wondering why the words feel fake, forced, or just plain boring. What if you didn't have to be perfect? What if instead you just had to be honest? You know the type, the ones who can't stop overthinking every word, every phrase, until the writing just feels like a collection of half-formed thoughts, trying way too hard to sound right. We've all been guilty of it. The pressure to sound polished or professional can smother the raw spark of creativity. But here's the thing. When you get too caught up in trying to sound good, you lose the very essence of what makes your writing powerful. The truth. People can feel that. They can sense when something is fake, when it's too rehearsed. And here's where the brutal honesty approach comes in. Instead of holding back, what if you just let it all out? No filter, no pretending. Be real, even if it feels uncomfortable. I'm talking about writing your rawest thoughts, your most vulnerable moments. It might sound risky, maybe even a little reckless, but that's where the magic happens. When you strip away the fluff and just say it like it is, your writing becomes more than just words on a page. It becomes something that resonates with others because they're feeling what you're feeling without all the layers of politeness or self-censorship. And here's why it works. When we're honest, we connect. People don't want to read another perfect, predictable piece of writing. They want to feel something real. And that's exactly what you get when you tap into this approach. Let me give you an example. A while back, I was working on a project. A story about a family holiday, something I thought would be a light and fun read. I started out with all the fluff, the happy moments, the perfect scenes, but it wasn't clicking. It felt stale, like I was checking boxes instead of telling a story. So I decided to get honest. I let go of the need to make everything picture perfect and started writing about the awkward silences, the unresolved tension, the way my cousin always steals the last slice of pizza. And guess what? The more brutally honest I was about the chaos and imperfection, the more alive the story became. It was messy, yes, but it was real, and that's what made it memorable. This approach isn't just about what you write, it's about how it makes you feel. It's about giving yourself permission to be unapologetically real in your work. Think about it. We live in a world where so many things are curated, filtered, and polished to the point of being unrecognizable. But in your writing, you get to break free from all that. This is your space, your creativity, your voice. And when you embrace honesty, you reclaim that space with strength and confidence. No more hiding behind the perfect words. You're giving the world your truth, and that's something powerful. So, here's the takeaway. Stop holding back. Stop editing yourself before you even start. Let your words come out unfiltered, raw, and real. When you do that, you're not just writing, you're sharing a piece of your soul. And believe me, that's the kind of writing that makes an impact. Your space, your voice, your truth, unapologetically. That's where real creativity thrives. Number 2, the deadline. Panic principle. Let's face it, deadlines can be the ultimate stress bomb. You know that feeling, right? You've got this looming deadline and the clock is ticking down. Every minute feels like it's dragging on, but somehow the work still isn't done. Now, you might be thinking, what if I told you that the secret to getting more done isn't working harder, but actually embracing that panic? Yes, you heard me right. Embrace the panic. Let the deadline fuel you instead of draining you. I know, it sounds counterintuitive, but trust me on this one. We've all been there, right? You've got this huge project, an essay, a video edit, whatever it is, and you keep telling yourself, I'll start tomorrow. I've got plenty of time. But then, suddenly, you're sitting there the night before, coffee in hand, heart racing, wondering why you procrastinated until the last minute. You can feel the pressure building, your mind scrambling, and all of a sudden, boom, your best work seems to just pour out of you. What if, instead of running from that pressure, you leaned into it? The deadline panic principle is about doing just that, harnessing that last-minute rush and using it as rocket fuel for your creativity. Here's the thing. When we're on the clock, our brains switch into overdrive. All the distractions fade away. We're forced to focus. Why? Because deadlines tap into a fundamental psychological trigger: urgency. Think about it. How many times have you put off something only to finish it in half the time you thought you needed once the pressure was on? It's not magic, it's science. The stress forces you to prioritize, to cut through the fluff and get to the heart of the task. Now, I know what you're thinking. This can't be healthy. But hear me out. It's not about letting the panic control you. It's about creating a framework where you can thrive under pressure, using that pressure as a tool rather than a burden. Let me share a quick story. A few weeks ago, I was working on a video project, one that I had weeks to prepare for, but of course, I procrastinated until the night before. There I was, staring at hours of footage, thinking, how on earth am I going to pull this off in time? But instead of freaking out, I let myself feel that rush. I sat down, turned off my phone, and allowed myself to focus only on the task at hand. The panic was real, but it pushed me to get creative and to stop overthinking. In the end, I completed the video in record time, and honestly, it turned out better than I expected. That last-minute energy, it wasn't my enemy, it was my secret weapon. Now, this is where the real power of the deadline panic principle kicks in. It's not just about getting things done, it's about reclaiming your peace and focus. We all know that sinking feeling when we've been procrastinating for too long, but when you face that pressure head-on, you stop wasting time in the panic zone. You take control. You stop second-guessing yourself. And in that space, you realize that deadlines aren't these terrifying monsters. They're opportunities. Opportunities to push past your limits and achieve more in less time. So, the next time you feel that anxiety creeping in with an approaching deadline, remember this. You've got this. Lean into that pressure. Don't avoid it. Let the panic propel you forward. Your peace, your focus, your success. It's all within your reach. The trick is to use that deadline as the push you need, not the obstacle you fear. Own your time. Own your deadlines. And most importantly, own the power that comes from doing your best under pressure. Your creativity thrives in that space. And trust me, you'll be amazed at what you can accomplish. Number 3, the word limit constraint. What if I told you that limiting your words could actually unlock your creativity? Yes, you heard me right. Cutting down the number of words you use might be the secret to writing something extraordinary. Now, I know you're probably thinking, but wait, won't that make my writing too short, too simplistic? Yes, trust me on this, the power of brevity is underrated. It's not about saying less, it's about saying more with less. And it can transform your writing into something sharper, clearer, and, well, more impactful. We've all been there, right? Staring at a blank page, wondering how we can fill up 1,000 words with something that even remotely resembles a story. Or worse, we've written a whole chunk, only to realize it's bloated with unnecessary details that don't move the story forward. You know the type, the kind of writing that drones on, trying to sound important, but losing its punch somewhere along the way. It's easy to fall into that trap, but here's the truth. Sometimes less is actually more, a lot more. The word limit constraint is about forcing yourself to condense your ideas into a small, manageable space, whether it's 500 words, 1,000, or even 200. And when you do that, you find yourself getting to the heart of what really matters in your writing. So why does this work? Well, when you have a set word limit, you're forced to prioritize. Every sentence, every word counts. You can't waste time meandering or over-explaining. You have to be intentional. And here's the kicker. Constraints like this don't stifle creativity, they fuel it. You'll start thinking more strategically, cutting out the fluff and focusing only on the essentials. It's like when you're packing for a trip and you can only bring so much. You'll end up with the things you really need, no extras, no baggage. And guess what? Your writing will have the same effect. It will be lean, mean, and efficient. Let me give you a real-world example. A while ago, I was working on a short story assignment for a contest. The catch? It had to be no more than 500 words. At first, I was horrified. 500 words? How could I possibly tell a complete story in that little space? But then something clicked. I had to trim down all the unnecessary scenes, remove all the fluff, and focus on just one key moment. The result? A story that felt tighter, more focused, and yes, much more powerful. I didn't have the luxury to over-explain anything. Every word had a purpose. It wasn't easy, but when I hit that word limit, I knew the story was the best version of itself. The constraint pushed me to do something I never would have if I had unlimited space to ramble. This idea is more than just a writing trick. It's about reclaiming your space and your time. When you challenge yourself with a word limit, you stop wasting mental energy on the endless possibilities and start focusing on the ones that truly matter. It's easy to get lost in the pressure of making something sound perfect or complete, but the real growth happens when you let go of the need to fill up every inch. You start trusting yourself more and respecting the power of simplicity. Your writing becomes more concise, more powerful, and more intentional. It's about finding freedom in constraints, not feeling trapped by them. So here's the takeaway. Challenge yourself with a word limit the next time you sit down to write. Whether it's 500, 300, or 1,000 words, see what happens when you force yourself to get to the point. You'll be amazed at how much you can accomplish with fewer words. And most importantly, you'll learn how to say exactly what needs to be said. Nothing more, nothing less. Your space, your words, your impact, distilled into something unforgettable. Number 4, write what you fear. What if I told you that the secret to writing your best work lies in writing about what terrifies you? Yes, you heard me right. That one thing you've been avoiding, the topic that makes you feel uncomfortable, vulnerable, or downright scared, that's where the magic happens. Now, I know you're probably thinking, but why would I want to write about something that makes me feel uneasy? Yes, trust me on this. The things we fear often hold the deepest truths, the most powerful emotions, and the richest material for our writing. So why not use that fear to fuel your creativity? We've all been there. You sit down to write, and your mind starts racing through all the what-ifs. What if people don't get it? What if it's too raw? What if it's too personal? We often find ourselves circling around topics we know we should dive into, but avoid because they make us feel exposed or vulnerable. It's the kind of hesitation that leads to overthinking, endless rewrites, and unfinished drafts. You know the type, writing that feels safe, that checks all the boxes but lacks any real spark. But here's the twist. That fear, it's not the enemy, it's the signal. It's telling you where the gold is buried. So what does it look like to write what you fear? It's about embracing the discomfort instead of running from it. It's acknowledging that the things we shy away from often hold the most profound stories. And here's why it works. Fear, whether it's about confronting your deepest emotions, sharing an unpopular opinion, or exploring a taboo topic, forces you to dig deeper. It challenges you to move past the surface-level words and connect with something real. It forces you to be vulnerable, which in turn makes your writing more authentic and raw. It's the kind of writing that doesn't just tell a story, it moves people. Let me share a story with you. A while ago, I wrote a piece about a difficult personal experience that I had been avoiding for months. I feared it would be too much, too intense, and honestly, I wasn't sure I was ready to share that side of myself, but something inside me said, write it anyway. And so, I did. I poured my heart out in its most unpolished, messy form, and you know what? It was the most honest, impactful writing I've done in ages. When I finally hit publish, I was terrified, but the response? It was overwhelming. People resonated with it. They shared their own stories, and for the first time, I realized that our fears are often the bridges to the connections we crave. So here's the truth. Writing what you fear isn't just about creating something great. It's about creating something meaningful. When you tap into that raw vulnerability, you open up a space for others to do the same. You give yourself permission to stop holding back, to stop second-guessing your truth, and to simply write from the heart. You reclaim your creative power. Remember, this is about more than just words on a page. It's about reclaiming your space, your voice, and your story. It's about honoring the discomfort and allowing it to push you toward growth. Next time you sit down to write, think about what makes you hesitate. That's the place to start. Don't run from it. Run toward it. Your words will be stronger, your message clearer, and your connection with your audience deeper. And trust me, the world needs what you're holding back. Write what you fear, and watch how it transforms not just your writing, but yourself. Number 5. The randomizer method. What if I told you that the key to unlocking your creativity could lie in random chaos? Sounds counterintuitive, right? After all, we're taught to plan, structure, and organize. That's how success happens, right? Well, trust me on this. The randomizer method could be the game changer you didn't know you needed. Now, I know you might be thinking, how could randomness actually help me get anything done? But hear me out. It's not about throwing all your plans out the window. It's about using randomness as a tool to break free from overthinking, writer's block, and burnout. We've all been there, sitting at a blank page or screen, staring at it like it's mocking us, knowing we need to get something done but feeling completely stuck. It's like being paralyzed by the sheer number of choices, the weight of expectations, and the overwhelming pressure to do it right. We end up second-guessing every word, every idea, every approach. You know the type, the kind of perfectionism that keeps you from getting anything on the page in the first place. The kind where you're too afraid of making a mistake to even start. But what if we flipped that around? What if we made the chaos work for us instead of against us? Enter the randomizer method. It's simple. Give yourself a set of completely random elements, anything from random words, images, ideas, even physical objects, and let them drive your creative process. For example, choose 3 random words, a random color, and an image from a magazine, and build your project around those pieces. Sounds like a mess, right? But here's why it works. Randomness forces you to break free from your internal critic. It takes away the overthinking, the obsessing, and puts you in a position where you have to trust your instincts. You don't have time to second guess because the randomness is leading the way. Let me tell you a little story. A few weeks ago, I found myself stuck with a writing project that had me absolutely paralyzed. I was trying to make everything perfect, but all I had was frustration. Then I decided to try something completely different. I grabbed a handful of random objects from around my house, an old postcard, a broken pen, and a rubber band, and used them as my inspiration. What I created wasn't perfect, but it was freeing. The randomness pushed me to think outside my usual patterns, to make connections I never would have thought of otherwise. The result? A story I felt proud of. It wasn't clean, it wasn't neat, but it was mine. Here's the thing, embracing randomness isn't about giving up control. It's about taking control of your creative blocks in a way that's liberating. It's about reclaiming your space by allowing yourself to explore freely, without the pressure of perfection. You'll notice that once you give yourself permission to embrace the unpredictable, the stress starts to melt away. No longer are you tied to the right way of doing things. You're free to explore, to stumble, and to discover new pathways in your work. It's about taking the reins of your own process and allowing yourself to step into the unknown. The randomizer method isn't just a trick to get you through a creative slump. It's a mindset shift. It's about letting go of rigid structures and trusting that even the most random, disjointed pieces can come together to create something beautiful. It's about trusting the process, even when it feels messy. So next time you're stuck, remember, embrace the chaos, let the randomness lead the way, and watch your creativity flow in ways you never imagined. This is about reclaiming your freedom, your creativity, and your peace of mind. It's about stepping away from the pressure of perfection and trusting that the messiness of your process will eventually lead you to something incredible. Embrace the randomness and let it remind you that sometimes the best creations come from the unexpected. Number 6. Reverse engineering. What if I told you that the key to solving your toughest problems doesn't lie in starting from the beginning, but in going backward? Reverse engineering sounds complicated, right? You might be thinking, how can going backwards help me move forward? But trust me, it's one of the most effective strategies you can use to achieve anything from writing a killer presentation to launching your own project or even making life decisions. Stick with me, because this might just be the game changer you didn't know you needed. We've all been there, looking at the end result we want, feeling overwhelmed by the huge gap between where we are now and where we want to be. Whether it's finishing that big project, getting that promotion, or just making a major life change, the challenge can seem massive. You know the type. You look at the finish line and wonder how on earth you're ever going to get there. We often get stuck focusing so much on the start that we lose sight of the bigger picture. But what if we could break it down, step by step, from where we want to be, and work backward. It's simpler than it sounds. Here's where reverse engineering comes in. Instead of stressing about where to start, think about the end result. What does success look like? What are the specific steps that would get you there? Now break it down further. What had to happen right before that? Keep going until you can trace the whole path backward. By working backward, you're able to see exactly what needs to happen, in what order, and you realize that you've been overcomplicating things by focusing too much on the start. I'll give you an example. A few months ago, I had to organize a huge event at work. At first, I felt completely overwhelmed. Where do I even begin? But then I stopped and thought, okay, what does a successful event look like? It's a full room, smooth schedule, happy attendees. Great, now what needs to happen right before that? Guests need to arrive, check-in needs to be smooth, the speakers need to be ready, and before that, I need to send out invites, set up the venue, and confirm all the details. As I broke it down, the tasks became manageable, and I found myself creating a timeline that made sense, starting from the end and working my way back to today. By the time the event came around, I was relaxed and ready. It all fell into place because I had already laid out the path. So, what's the benefit? Well, reverse engineering takes away the uncertainty and stress. Instead of feeling like you're tackling a mountain, you're simply following a clear, logical roadmap. It allows you to take control of your process and focus on what's truly important, executing the steps that get you from point A to point B. It's about giving yourself permission to break things down in a way that makes sense, to create a plan that feels achievable. This method isn't just about completing tasks. It's about reclaiming your sense of control. It's about having a strategy that works with you, not against you. By starting with the end in mind, you can shed the overwhelm and move forward with clarity. No more feeling stuck or unsure, just a clear vision and actionable steps. By implementing reverse engineering in your life, you're not just solving a problem, you're demonstrating strength, confidence, and self-respect. You're showing yourself that you don't have to start from scratch, and that by looking backward, you can walk confidently toward the future. So, take that leap. Start with the finish line and work your way back. The path forward is clearer than you think. Number 7, the public feedback challenge. Have you ever had that moment where you put your heart into something, maybe a project, a presentation, or even a creative work, and then you share it with others, only to get feedback that completely throws you off? The kind of feedback that leaves you questioning everything. You know the type. The comment that makes you think, was I totally off? Should I start over? Now, I get it. Receiving feedback can be tough. It feels personal, and it often makes you wonder whether you're on the right track at all. But here's the kicker. What if I told you that the key to turning public feedback into something empowering and useful actually lies in embracing the challenge? I know what you're thinking, but what if the feedback is negative? What if they don't understand what I was trying to do? Trust me, I've been there too. We've all faced those moments when someone's critique feels more like a jab than a helpful suggestion. It's like walking into a room full of critics, each with a different opinion, all of them thinking they know what's best. But here's the twist. Instead of letting that feedback derail you, you can use it to your advantage. The strategy is simple. Embrace the feedback challenge as an opportunity for growth. Instead of viewing feedback as a reflection of failure, think of it as a tool, a chance to sharpen your skills, refine your work, and evolve. Here's why it works. When we receive criticism, our first instinct is often to defend ourselves, to explain why we did what we did. But that approach doesn't help us grow. What does help is stepping back, really listening to what's being said, and then using it to strengthen your next move. It's not about taking everything to heart, It's about filtering through the noise and picking out the gems that will make your work better. Let me give you an example. A while back, I presented an idea at work. I thought it was solid, but after hearing the feedback, I felt like I was hit by a ton of bricks. People were pointing out flaws I hadn't even considered. At first, my immediate reaction was to get defensive. But I worked hard on this, I thought. But then, instead of pushing back, I took a step back and looked at it from a different angle. I realized that some of their points actually made sense. The feedback didn't invalidate my work. It just gave me new perspectives. I revised the project, incorporated their suggestions, and when I presented it again, it was way stronger than before. The feedback challenge turned into an opportunity for improvement. Here's the thing. This isn't just about improving your work. It's about reclaiming your confidence. It's about recognizing that no matter what kind of feedback you receive, it doesn't define you. The ability to take feedback, process it, and turn it into something better is a powerful skill. You don't have to over-explain yourself or back down just to make others feel comfortable. What you can do is take a deep breath, sift through the feedback, and use it as fuel to grow. So the next time you face public feedback, remember this. It's not an attack, it's a challenge. A challenge to listen, reflect, and refine. It's about turning criticism into an opportunity to shine even brighter. You've got this, your peace, your growth, your confidence. Take the challenge, embrace the feedback, and watch how it elevates you. Number 8, the collaboration chaos. Have you ever been part of a team project where it feels like more time is spent arguing about the details than actually getting anything done? You know the type: endless emails, Zoom calls that go in circles, and a whole lot of "we should probably do this" without ever actually deciding anything. Now, you might be thinking, "Oh, I've been there too many times." And trust me, I get it. Collaboration sounds like a great idea in theory, right? More minds, more creativity, more input. But what happens when those minds don't quite mesh together? It can feel like total chaos. But what if I told you that this chaos could actually be the key to unlocking something brilliant? Here's the thing. Most of us are trained to avoid conflict. We want things to flow smoothly, decisions to be made quickly, and to wrap up projects without the drama. But here's the twist. Sometimes that chaos in collaboration is exactly what's needed. Instead of seeing it as a barrier, imagine it as a tool to challenge ideas, refine strategies, and spark innovation. Yes, trust me on this. It's about embracing the disarray, not running from it. Let me break it down for you. We've all had those moments in meetings where everyone's talking at once, ideas are clashing, and it feels like nothing is getting done. We want resolution, we want answers. But here's the truth. Those moments of conflict and confusion often push us to think deeper. Think about it. When we're forced to defend our ideas, refine our approach, or rethink the whole strategy, we uncover something better than what we had in the beginning. That chaos, it's the creative energy we need to break through stagnation. I remember a time when I was working on a group project at work. We had a great idea, but the execution, well, it was a mess. Every meeting felt like we were starting from scratch. There was arguing, confusion, and a lot of "can't we just agree already" moments. It was frustrating, to say the least. But then, after one particularly intense session, something clicked. We stopped trying to avoid the chaos and started using it. Each person brought up their ideas, no matter how unpolished they were. We embraced the confusion, worked through the tension, and, in the end, came up with a solution that none of us would have arrived at on our own. The chaos had forced us to think in ways we wouldn't have otherwise. This isn't just about your work. It's about your growth, your confidence. The next time you find yourself in the middle of collaboration chaos, don't shy away from it. Recognize it for what it is, an opportunity to push boundaries, test ideas, and elevate your thinking. It's easy to feel like you need to be the calm one, the problem solver, the peacemaker. But there's power in the chaos, and it's okay to lean into it. Embrace the storm. This is about reclaiming your space, your voice, and your creativity. Collaboration isn't always pretty, but it's real. And real growth happens when we stop seeking perfection and start working through the mess. The next time chaos hits, remember, this is your chance to shine. Your space, your peace, and your dignity. Don't be afraid to make them part of the process. Embrace the chaos and let it work for you. Thank you so much for watching. I truly hope this video gave you some fresh insights and practical tools to apply to your creative writing journey. If you found this helpful, don't forget to hit that like button. It helps so much and lets me know I'm on the right track. And if you want more content on how to write smarter, tackle those creative blocks, and make your stories come to life, be sure to subscribe and join the community. Also, if you know someone who could benefit from a little pragmatic approach to their writing, share this video with them. Let's spread the knowledge. And please, leave a comment down below. What's your biggest challenge when it comes to creative writing? Or maybe you've already tried a pragmatic approach to writing, and I'd love to hear how it worked for you. Let's keep the conversation going. Remember, writing isn't about waiting for inspiration to magically strike. It's about taking action and making progress every day. So, go ahead and apply what you've learned today, and don't let perfectionism stand in your way. You've got this. Until next time, keep writing and stay practical.